This is how the world's most horrifying diseases kill you. We'll start with the easiest disease to treat, all the way to the disease that will make you beg for a bullet. No, it has nothing to do with the Roman legionnaires. The disease was first identified at an American Legion convention, which is how it got its name. The outbreak began with 211 confirmed cases and 34 people died shortly afterward. After months of investigation, scientists discovered an entirely new bacteria. They named it Legionella pneumophila. It thrives in hotel air conditioning systems and cooling towers. What makes it unusual is that it doesn't spread from person to person. Instead, people become infected by inhaling tiny water droplets contaminated with the bacteria. The bacterium has an incubation period of 2 to 10 days. The scariest part is that the infection can go unnoticed until it's too late. Normally, immune cells would destroy the bacteria, but not this one. It even turns immune cells into its own hiding place and multiplies inside the very cells that are meant to destroy it. Because it lives inside host cells, it's much harder for antibiotics to kill it. When symptoms appear, they closely resemble those of ordinary pneumonia. A high fever, severe body aches, and overwhelming exhaustion soon set in. Some patients also develop diarrhea. The next stage is when the bacteria attack the lungs, leading to serious complications. This is when symptoms such as chest pain and shortness of breath begin to appear. This can eventually progress to sepsis and multiple organ failure. The final stage is acute respiratory failure followed by death. Looking for a way to prevent it? Unfortunately, there's still no vaccine against this disease. The only effective treatment is a course of macrolide or fluoroquinolone antibiotics, because they can easily penetrate into cells where the bacteria are hiding. If you wake up one day with a fever and notice a strange lump on your body, then, sorry to say, you've got the bubonic plague. All it takes is the bite of an infected flea to catch this terrifying disease. Just a tiny, almost painless bite that you'd never notice. These filthy little creatures often carry a bacterium known as Yersinia pestis. The way this bacterium invades the body is incredibly cunning. Much like Legionnaire's disease, it invades immune cells to avoid being destroyed. Even more frightening, this bacterium is able to disguise itself within immune cells. It then spreads rapidly throughout the body, multiplying while evading and crippling the body's immune defenses. Once their numbers are large enough, they move on to invade the lymph nodes. The lymph nodes, often described as the body's police force, are responsible for neutralizing harmful bacteria. By this point, the lymph nodes become swollen, forming the painful buboes that gave bubonic plague its name. It's a sign that the lymph nodes are fighting a desperate battle against bacteria. By this point, the swollen lymph node becomes hot, enlarged, while your entire body burns with a high fever. But if the bacteria aren't stopped at this point, something far worse is about to happen. It breaks through the lymph nodes and spills into the bloodstream. Carried by the bloodstream, they rapidly spread to vital organs, including the liver, spleen, kidneys, and lungs. At the same time, bacterial endotoxins, together with the body's overwhelming immune response, begin damaging the walls of blood vessels. This causes countless tiny blood clots to form inside the blood vessels. These blood clots block circulation to the extremities, causing the affected tissues to become necrotic and turn dark purple to black. Eventually, the entire body begins to shut down as widespread blood clots disrupt circulation, causing its vital functions to fail. Death usually follows within 2 to 3 days. However, if treated properly, the chances of recovery are very high. Otherwise, the battle against that damn bacterium would last just as long as it did 600 years ago. One beautiful morning on a farm, you happily walk over to the horse, spending the entire day playing with it and petting it. Everything seemed normal until about a day later. You see a few red marks on your skin, but you brush them off as simple insect bites. Only a day later, a high fever sets in, and those red spots develop into blisters that quickly rupture, forming ulcers. The most distinctive sign is that a black coal-like scab forms in the center of the ulcer. This terrifying disease is caused by a bacterium known as Bacillus anthracis. The terrifying part is that it can hide in the soil for decades, waiting for the chance to infect again. Livestock such as cattle, sheep, and horses often become infected by eating grass or drinking water contaminated with these spores. They then become a source of infection, passing the disease to humans who come into contact with them. And in some cases, all it takes is inhaling a few invisible spores drifting through the air. However, unlike many infectious diseases, this one does not spread from person to person. Depending on its route of entry, the disease can present in several different forms. The two most notable forms are cutaneous anthrax and inhalation anthrax. In the cutaneous form, the symptoms appear as we described earlier. If treated early with antibiotics, most cases can recover completely. But if the bacteria enter the bloodstream, the infection can progress into sepsis, and you already know what that means. Far more dangerous is inhalation anthrax, which occurs when a person breathes in the spores. The disease has an incubation period of 1 to 7 days, though symptoms may take weeks to develop. At first, the disease presents with flu-like symptoms, such as a mild fever, muscle aches. After about 2 to 3 days, the patient develops a high fever, chest pain, extreme difficulty breathing, a rapid heartbeat, and heavy sweating. This happens because oxygen levels in the blood drop. As a result, the lips, fingertips turn bluish, and the patient becomes confused to anything. If the disease is not treated aggressively, it can spiral into organ failure and ultimately result in death. The treatment method remains the same, using antibiotics just like in cases of cutaneous infection. Treatment also includes mechanical ventilation, intravenous fluids, and vasopressor medications to maintain blood pressure. It is precisely this bacterium's incredible resilience and its ability to hide its symptoms so effectively that makes it so dangerous. And well, it has also been used by some terrorist organizations as a biological weapon. You are a tourist traveling through West Africa. You spend the next few days enjoying the hospitality of the local people. Suddenly, you see someone vomiting uncontrollably before collapsing. Seeing this, you immediately rush over to help them up and call an ambulance. You go home and sleep, only to wake up the next morning with a headache pounding like a hammer. You try everything, even taking painkillers, but the pain refuses to go away. By the afternoon, you go to the hospital completely exhausted, to the point where even moving your hand becomes a difficult effort. The doctor believes it is just exhaustion or heat stroke, prescribes some medication, and advises you to rest. But things only get worse as you return home. The simple reason is that you have contracted Ebola. The virus had already been incubating and multiplying inside your body for 5 days. And this is what Ebola had been doing inside your body during those 5 days. Your bloodstream is a vast transportation network that connects every part of your body. Inside the vessel walls are specialized cells that work to keep the barrier intact. Ebola targets these cells and renders them ineffective, contributing to the development of tiny holes in blood vessel walls. As these tiny leaks worsen, blood begins to seep out of the vessels, causing blood pressure to drop. This causes your immune system to fight back against the infection. But Ebola does something that almost no other virus can do. It invades immune cells and takes control of the very cells that are supposed to destroy it. At this point, Ebola begins using a Trojan horse strategy. Ebola exploits immune cells to disrupt the body's alarm system, creating the illusion that everything is under control. At this point, Ebola begins using a Trojan horse strategy. But with Ebola, these false signals do not stop. They continue spreading throughout the body all at once. By the time the body realizes it has been deceived, it is already too late. Ebola and the leaking blood begin spreading throughout the entire body. By day 4 or 5, you begin vomiting constantly, unable to stop. Then comes diarrhea, and if you have ever experienced cholera, you already know what happens next. Your body will lose between 3 and 5 liters of fluid every single day. In severe cases, you can lose as much as 10 liters of fluid in a single day. It can surpass the amount of fluid a human can possibly replace in a single day. But inside your body, things are even worse. Now that the cells responsible for protecting your blood vessels are gone, blood begins leaking wherever it can. From your gums, eyes, even the tiniest cuts and scratches, along with internal bleeding spreading throughout the body. As massive amounts of fluid and blood are lost, your organs begin to shut down. Without enough blood reaching the kidneys, their filtration system starts to collapse. Next comes the liver, as Ebola also attacks and destroys liver cells. When the liver fails, the body loses its ability to clot blood because it can no longer produce clotting proteins. Finally, combined with severe blood and fluid loss, along with multi-organ failure, Eventually, the heart can no longer keep beating as blood volume and pressure drop to critical levels. After 6 to 16 days, your body can no longer keep fighting because its vital systems are collapsing. Even if you receive treatment in time, you can still suffer from post-Ebola complications that may last for more than 5 years. The symptoms include joint pain, headaches, muscle pain, reduced vision, and crushing fatigue. The virus may be gone, but the damage it left behind remains. You're walking down the street like any normal day. Suddenly, you feel a sharp pain in your leg and stop to look at the wound. Then you notice a rusty knife lying on the ground, covered in your own blood. You continue living your life as usual, as if nothing ever happened. You continue living your life as usual, as if nothing ever happened. But about 7 days later, you begin to feel your jaw becoming stiff. You continue living your life as usual, as if nothing ever happened. Your facial muscles begin to tighten, forcing your mouth into a distorted grin. These are the first signs of tetanus, known as the tetanus smile. This disease will be the first entry on our list of beg for a bullet. What makes this bacterium so deadly comes from the way it moves. Normally, when viruses or bacteria enter the body, they try to disable immune cells to avoid being destroyed. But tetanus plays a different game. It stays hidden near the wound and targets the motor nerves that control your muscles. Once it reaches the spinal cord, tetanospasmin attacks nerve cells where immune cells are unable to intervene. It then prevents these neurons from releasing two key inhibitory neurotransmitters, GABA and glycine. Normally, GABA and glycine act as the nervous system's brakes, regulating muscle activity. Once this mechanism is disabled, motor neurons begin sending constant signals without any control. As a result, you begin experiencing the first symptoms described earlier. Over the next few days, you will begin experiencing intense and painful muscle spasms. A tiny disturbance, a sound, a beam of light, or a brief touch can cause your muscles to suddenly lock up. Each spasm becomes a painful battle, with contractions powerful enough to damage the body itself. In the final stage, muscle spasms become so widespread that nearly every vital part in the body becomes rigid. You will eventually die from respiratory failure, cardiac arrest, or by a malfunctioning autonomic nervous system. The only way to stop it is to immediately receive a tetanus vaccine after exposure. That is why tetanus is a disease that can be both easy to prevent and deadly if ignored. The most terrifying thing about tetanus is that patients remain fully conscious while the spasms are happening. Imagine being unable to sleep, unable to touch anything, while your own body is constantly being forced into painful positions. And you remain trapped, feeling every second of the pain with no relief until death finally comes to claim you. You are taking a walk through a park at night. Suddenly, a dog approaches you. The dog starts growling with its mouth covered in drool, and it suddenly lunges at you and bites straight into your hand. Terrified, you run away, carrying nothing but the bite wound. You quickly wash your hand with water, and the wound slowly begins to heal. You continue living your life normally for the next few months. Then one day, you suddenly feel an itch around the old wound. A few days later, you begin feeling restless and irritated by everything, while a high fever takes over your body. This is the moment when the rabies virus begins slowly making its way into your nervous system. And by the time you start feeling something is wrong, the virus has already reached your brain. At this point, things become much worse as the virus begins attacking the parts of your brain responsible for controlling emotions and behavior. You quickly rush to the hospital as your aggression begins spiraling out of control. When the doctor offers you a glass of water, you react even more aggressively. This is the symptom known as hydrophobia, which simply means the fear of water. This is not actually a fear. It is a sign that your brain is slowly losing control. And it doesn't stop at water. You also become afraid of even a simple wind. And because of this mechanism, you can no longer swallow your own saliva, causing your mouth to fill with drool. And the reason this happens is because the virus is now infecting the salivary glands, with the purpose of spreading the infection to another person. In the final stage, paralysis begins in the lower body and slowly moves upward. From legs, to arms, then chest. And after about 2 to 10 more days, you will finally be released from the suffering. Its treatment is similar to tetanus. The key is getting vaccinated immediately after exposure. But once the virus reaches the nervous system, the fatality rate is nearly 100%.